Hi guys, I'm making this video for people who need to maybe understand my workflow a little bit or model and texture some stuff. So it's here. It's been waiting there. So I'm gonna try to explain what I'm doing and hope it's gonna be beginner friendly. I'll try my best. It's maybe some stuff go maybe too fast, but well, it should be fine if you have some basic understanding of Blender. So, how do we begin? Here, what I'm doing is I'm importing uh, the image. So I'm gonna import it first time with image as plane. Okay, import as plane. Then I'm importing it as a reference. So you could select the image and project the texture later. Here I'm putting a cube so I can scale the size of the final model. So it's nice to have a sense of scale when we start modeling, so we don't have a messed up proportion, and it's better for eyeballing too. So when I put this cube, I think it's 1 meter. So I'm trying to match the image, so it's realistic, let's say. Here I'm trying to match the image, so it's perfectly aligned. Because if you don't align it, then you're gonna have maybe some shape problems. So we align both. So when you project it, the image line up with the model. Now we start modeling. So I'm gonna probably readjust the image so it line up perfectly with the Miro modifier. Once it's done, I'm gonna contour the jaw and start modeling. Keep in mind you should always start with low vertex count, low faces. Don't don't put too much vertex or too much faces, because it's gonna be biting you off later. Because the more vertex you will add, the more work you're gonna need, and it's harder to make it smooth too. So even if it's not perfect, try to keep the vertex count as low as possible. Of course, the first thing you should aim before even beginning all that is to watch the image and try to put the shapes into place, because I'm modeling the jaw because I don't have basic shapes that I can fit. That means when I'm talking about basic shapes, I'm talking about primitives. So when you add something in mesh, plane, cube, UV sphere, all that, you have to try to match those things into the drawing. so you don't have to model them totally for the start. So when we talk about maybe um, the arms, then it's a cylinder. When we talk about the shape of his head, it's close to a half circle. I mean a half sphere. So you cut off the sphere, and you're good. You can start with low efforts. Because if you start as a plane, then you have to model everything, and it's not necessarily clean too. So try to match the primitive as much as possible, and every time you model something, try to know what primitive it's looking like. When we see his ears, his nose, b- both are spheres. Then you start off with the sphere. You line up the sphere. Try to match the shape with the proportional editing. Once you've done that, then you detail. Always start simple and go toward the difficult things. So when you tackle um, a model, try always to identify the shapes. What I mean is you have to watch the image or watch the model and start simple. Start with basic shapes and identify the shapes. So the eye is a sphere, it's a modified sphere, the ear is a sphere, the head is half ball, and everything like that. You have to identify the sphere and lay the basic shapes. You could literally lay all the basic shapes in the model first, and then you stitch them together. Try to avoid the hands and the foot and everything like that, because those parts are complicated. There are a lot of geometry going on there. So try to keep low geometry first, and then you will go to complicated things, because those things take time. Hands and foot take times. It's detail. They're the parts with lot of geometry and lot of topology. So it will be nice to make it later once you have a better overall shape and understanding of the model. And the understanding of the model will grow once you lay the basic shapes. Don't start with the end of the foot from the start. You will have problems because it will be not scaled properly or everything like that. If you start with detail first, you'll have problems. Start simple. So here I'm trying to match the head shape with proportional editing. So you just use it. Don't forget to use the transparency. I mean, at the top right, because it will make you select the vertex on the back too. Because if you only select the one on the front, then the one will be the one behind will be hidden, and then you will be doing only the work for the one on the front. Then you'll have problems. Yes, as I said later, I'm putting a sphere, and I'll cut off the bits I don't need, and I'll make a noise out of it. If you have some mismatching inconsistencies because the side is different from the face, then you try to maybe put a little bit of both worlds, right? Look, if I line up the nose, it's a bit over the top. It's not perfectly lined up, so you have inconsistencies, and this happen a lot of time, and you have to fix it because try to respect as much as you can if it's on the paper, but if you have to do it yourself, then do it last. Always try to match as much as possible what's in front of you, so you do the less effort possible. I'm kind of the lazy person, because the more lazy you are, that means you'll do things effectively and you'll be efficient. If you work too much, then you'll grow tired for nothing. So try to keep it simple. It's not that hard. You just have to keep it simple. If it's difficult, then take your time and maybe take a pause, maybe from some hours, some days. Come back to it later. Once you feel better about it, then you can learn it and try to make it. Because the only way to learn is to fail. If you don't fail, you don't learn. Victories don't really teach you nothing. You have to suffer and and learn. But once you learned, then you'll be rewarded. So the reward is always worth it. So don't hesitate to put parts in different objects. I mean, if you have the nose and you have the head, don't put them in the same object, because you have to separate them because of the interaction of the mirror modifier. Once you have the mirror modifier, you'll have problem if you add the sphere in the same object, in the same object, because once you have let's say half of the ball of the head, if you add the nose in the same object, then you'll have problem with mirror, because you have half a ball and the rest is mirror. But when you add the sphere, it will add a complete sphere. So once you have the complete sphere, it's a complete sphere in both sides of the mirror. So you have to cut off the sphere. But once you cut off the sphere, it will lose the shape. So to keep the shape the same, add the sphere in the different object, and cut off the sphere, line it up, do it in the model. I mean, you line it up, you put it in this place, you add the shape, and then you join the object together. Always do the things part by parts. Don't make it at the same time because you'll have problem later on. Try always to imagine stuff as separate parts. The more parts you will separate, the better it will be. You have to tackle things one by one. Don't take it at the same time. Try to start small and build from it. You know, some parts are easier than other. I mean the arms, the legs, and all that are simple. But when we go towards the stuff that are a bit harder, like the hands and the foot, those stuff are like details because they're very small and very complex, and they need a topology that's really special. When I talk about topology, you can imagine it as the flow between the quads and all that. You have to match that. Always try to have quads that are the same size, and you'll be fine. Of course, this is a workflow for NPR. I mean, this is not realistic. The lightning won't have any effect on the model because the shadow we'll be using will be emission shadow. If you use the principled BDSDF, you'll have problem with the color. Don't forget to put it to put Blender in standard. I mean, the color mode should be standard. Because if you go with Filmic, the color won't be accurate, and when you will be painting, you'll have problems because the color won't match. So you will compensate for that, and when you export that, you'll have probably some stuff going on. We want to keep it simple, so just do it like you should from the start. You won't have to fix it later. So we did the jawline, so it's done, and we linked the noise and everything. It should be quite easy from there because the head shape is quite small and we only doing the head. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. So we don't do all for the eyes. We just put it on top of the face because it's like that there that's looking. We don't overcomplicate. We just try to keep it as simple as possible. Now we will model the neck, put the neck, and just stitch it on the rest. As I said, from there on we'll do the ears, so some sphere cut in half, then you add the vertex, but you have to imagine a bit in there because the points look like you have more points, more vertex, so you need to dissolve some and then you stitch it. The problem is this could be a bit confusing for new people because that's the part that need experience. So in the start you count the vertex, but once you're used to it, you you can be okay with the vertex count and the proper quads. You don't really need to put quads in this type of thing because I know I won't animate the object. So if it's a still object, you don't have to put quads because if it's still and not lighted, if you don't have lights, then you don't have to do all this. And you shouldn't do things that's too hard. Try to do the just thing because you it's pretty easy to put too much effort when you model our texture. Try to put the just amount of texture. The thing is you have to keep a certain level of topology because if you expose it, maybe someone will check the topologies of. The best is to have a good topology, but it's not for a beginner. If it's simple for you to have a bad topology, I mean it should be okay if you do still models with no lights, but it's not very a good approach. But you can start from this and build from there. But topology is kind of important, and it's always more important than it should be because that's basically the thing that's really important. If you have bad topology, then you'll have bad shapes. If you have bad topology, you'll have bad shadows. If you have bad topology, you have bad paint, and you'll have bad UVs and bad animation. So topology is quite the stuff you should get right. If you can't yet, then you can wait a bit. But the better your topology will be, the better you will improve, because it's kind of the base of everything. You can try. I mean, you can you can have bad topology in the start because you're beginning, but you have to improve on it real quick. It's kind of the most of I think it's the most important because it's linked to everything. Then I'm doing the eyes. I try to separate them so it's a bit easier. And that's it. The modeling process is like over. Then the eyebrows is the only stuff that's left.